All right, welcome to our CityRise podcast. My name is Mark Edworthy. It's great to have three reps from Sodzo International. Don't know much about them. I've heard some of their presentations, so I'm looking forward to hearing what God is doing through them, in them. And so I'm just going to let these guys introduce themselves, get us started. All right, Michael, you can start.
Yeah, my name is Michael Goodman. I'm the international director and the founding president of Sodzo International. I also have a faculty position at UTMB, and the work that we've been doing in Kenya has kind of emerged from that space.
Super.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hayes, and I'm the operations manager for Sodzo.
All right.
I'm Aaron Godoy. I'm the board chair of Sodzo and was previously the technology director. So there may be a little of that kind of thrown into part
All
of
right. Well, cool. Sodzo. Okay, that's not a word we use often. I'd love to say I knew that was from the Greek, but I was just told that. So, Michael, why don't you give us a little rundown? How long has the organization been around, and what was the impetus for the name?
Yeah. A partner in Kenya in 2012 asked us, what do we do about kids who live on the street? I was there with medical students from UTMB, as I mentioned, and it wasn't clear what the solution should be, but we knew the orientation should be these children and all children should be welcomed into life, should be protected from harm, should be restored to their community, to their God. And in Greek, we have this word sodzeste. When someone asks to be saved, they mean to be restored and protected and made whole. And the root of that word is sodzo. So that's where we got the word.
There you go.
2015.
All right. So you are the founder. So kind of how did it start? I mean, was it on that trip or?
Yeah, so we did some formative research. As a public health student, I was working on my doctorate of public health at the time. There wasn't anything published on what to do about kids who live on the street. And as I was praying even about taking on that question, I heard Jesus say, welcome the children unto me. Sure. If you want a place in my kingdom, you have to make the world welcoming for children. So we took on the challenge and did a few years of interviews with the kids and who were living on the streets and with families and communities that we could find that were identified. And it led to the program model that we launched in 2016. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned medical. So you teach, do you also practice?
I'm actually, my PhD is in public health.
Okay.
So yeah, I do public health practice.
Yeah.
But not clinical practice.
All right. Well, let's hear, Kelly, a little bit about you, your family.
So I'm Kelly. I'm married to Ben. We have 6 children. And my first time to Kenya was in 2017. Totally fell in love with the people and the place. And for the next couple of years, I just felt that I should do something with my life to help people in Kenya. And in 2020, I was questioning what that should be, as we all were questioning our lives in 2020. And really just felt the Lord saying, public health.
Yeah.
It never had really occurred to me. I was really thinking more of like the nursing path. And anyways, found a program in July of 2020, started in August of 2020, and then transferred to UT here in Houston in January of 2021. And met Michael through my studies, how I got the job, and just really, my prayer was I would have a job working from Houston, helping people in Kenya, and God literally set it in my lap.
That's
so
amazing.
super, super thankful for that.
Well, I've been to Kenya just once, actually with your husband a couple years ago,
yes.
and met this cutest little baby named Kelly. And I'm like, so that's just a normal Swahili name. And,
very African.
Then I heard the story.
Yes.
And obviously your namesake is there.
Yeah,
All
very
right,
thankful.
Aaron, what's your background? What brought you into Sodzo?
I am a tech guy.
All right.
And so in 2018, I was approached by who was then the current technology director, Dave Robertson. And he was looking for others who want to support. And one of the things that struck me the most was I learned Sodzo was completely volunteer run on the US side. So to see, that they had been around for years at that point and were growing, all with just the will and attention of volunteers here on the US side. And of course, lots of dedicated staff on the Kenyan side. I was very, very keen to use some of my tech skills to try to elevate the mission. Cool. So joined the board in 2018 and have been on since, and have recently became the board chair and
All right.
enjoying that new role.
I lived 28 years overseas, so I know some of the challenges there. How did you guys navigate connecting with government, with local churches? Has that gone well?
Yeah, I mentioned in 2012, Stanley Guittari asked me what do we do about kids on the street. I put together a research proposal that was like an 80-page document. I didn't expect them to do anything with it. I thought it would let me off the hook and I could say, Jesus, I really did care. And we just didn't get it done. Sorry. and in that 80-page research document was a lot of interview questions for stakeholders, churches, schools, government officials in different ministries and offices. And I wasn't willing to begin something in a place where there wasn't already some support for it.
Right.
And so the underlying question is the issue of kids on the street something that your churches want to do something about? And they made the Methodist Church of Kenya made available about an 80-acre farm for us to build the Watoto Wahari Rescue Center, that means Children of Promise Rescue Center, and has been a great partner. And the government had been interested in working with kids, but they didn't have a good strategy. And when we came to them with our strategy, they said, "Oh, let's support and follow this." So they've been government, churches, schools, community leaders, traditional leaders have been on board since day one. So
wow. So street kids, are they mostly from Nairobi, or is it pretty much across? I mean, obviously, larger cities generally struggle more with that phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, urbanization generally drives both push and pull factors for kids to go to the streets. And Kenya is one of the most rapidly urbanizing countries in the world. And so with that, you see these townships of 50,000 people, 40,000, sometimes more or less, gather. Kids are on the street in the numbers of 100 kids, 150 kids at times. And counting them is difficult.
Sure.
But so the places we serve are actually pretty removed from Nairobi, but the kids are still, in these little townships living on the streets.
Yeah. Well, what does it look like in country? You mentioned a center. How many workers do you have there? And again, what's their life look like as they reach out? How do they find the children? How do they begin these connections? I'm sure our hearers would love to hear. How does that actually work?
Yeah, so our staff for the ARC, they'll go out onto the streets, find boys, gather them up, and if they're interested in coming to live in our home, they'll go speak with their parents. They try to get permission if possible. Many of them have become addicted to some kind of drugs, and so our program will help rehabilitate them. And but our goal is not, we're not an orphanage. Our goal is not to keep the children forever. Our goal is to rehabilitate them, show them a loving home, introduce them to the gospel if they haven't heard it, and then hopefully reunite them with their family within 6 months to a year.
What's the funding model? I mean, we have people listening, and obviously no one's going to say, "Don't send us money." But how
Definitely will not say that.
How does that work?
Sure. Our funding is based largely on grants.
Okay.
And those grants come from a couple different sources: our church partners and from scientific research. So given Michael's faculty at UTMB, University of Texas Medical Branch down in Galveston, as he submits for grants to do research on positive psychology or on depression or these different topics, Sodzo is a place where he can conduct that research. And as a byproduct, Sodzo gets to pull funding from that. Okay. So those are our two largest sources, but we're always looking to increase our individual giving.
So churches that would want to support you, is there any kind of connection where you would say, "Hey, come spend a week, 2 weeks"? What does like a volunteer trip opportunity look like?
Sure. We actually have one that's in the works right now. We're accepting people to sign up onto the list. Kelly, do you want to talk a little bit about the?
Sure. I'm actually leading a trip in September, 18th through the 27th. Would love to have some CityRise people join for sure. But yeah, we're going to go spend a day on the streets with children, just kind of learning about their life circumstances. Hopefully we want to do a clinic day and just based on the people that sign up, we'll
Sure.
tailor the trip to that. So would love for them to.
Now, would there need to be translation for most of them, or most of these children fluent at all in English? And it may depend on where they are.
No, we have our staff is,
Okay.
yeah, they can translate really well. Yeah.
Our hearers always love to hear, I hate to say success stories, but I call them God stories. Maybe a life or a family that you've seen over 6 years, whatever, to say, we remember this kid when we first met him, and now we've seen God just do something in his life, his family's life. And I'm sure there are multiple, but we'd love to hear one or two of those.
Dowdy, there's this guy named Dowdy who was a part of our first cohort in 2016, and his parents were having really difficult conflict, and they had some economic challenges. And Dowdy left for the streets, and he lived on the streets for a couple of years, and we picked him up in 2016. He wanted a route back. And we've mentioned the Watoto Hari Rescue Center. We have not yet mentioned our community program, which we call Kuja Pamoja Kwa Jamii, which is Swahili for come together for the place where we belong. And we have this way of building a sense of belonging, connection, mutual support, and sustained community-led transformation that happens over time. And I was visiting Dowdy's community in 2017, 2018, and they said to me, Michael, you need to pay for Dowdy's school fees. And I said, Dowdy comes from this community. He's your child. He's not my child. He's your kid. If he's successful, he will represent your community and make you proud. If he is not, how will you feel? What choice, what outcome do you want for Dowdy? And so they came together, and they were helping his parents get along better. And they collected fees to pay for her hospital bill. So she didn't have to stay in the hospital, and she could come home and didn't have to owe this debt to the hospital. And they paid for Dowdy's school fees, and he's about to finish secondary. He's about to finish high school because his community believed in him and his potential and saw their own role to help support him.
Wow, cool. Yeah, when I was there, I did see Hakuna Matata is actually real. It was on the sign. And I learned that Simba means lion. So there you go. If I go about 30 more times, I'll probably be able to greet people. And how can people find you? Obviously, everybody has a web presence now, and some may say, hey, I'd like to hear some more. Where can they go?
Yeah, our website is sodzointernational.org. We do have a donation page there if people want to find that page.
It's a great page. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and again, Sodzo is SODZO, sodzointernational.org. Or they're, free to find me at church, and
all right,
I can talk about Kenya all day long.
Sure. And so if they go on this page, can they connect to say, hey, we'd love someone to come out to our church and maybe tell us more about this?
Yeah, we have a contact us form. And if you fill that out, we'll definitely reach out to you.
Sure.
We would love to share with other churches and other people that don't already know about us. That's, of course, one of our biggest goals right now.
Sure. So now we just heard about this amazing story of this child who's gone through. What are the biggest frustrations? And I'm sure there are many, or challenges that you would love to have people pray for, to say we would love to overcome this obstacle that maybe it's new, maybe it's something since the onset.
I mean, the first thing in my mind maybe is just our budget, our financial model. We do get a lot of money from grants, but those are somewhat unreliable, and we have really generous individual donors. But the individuals that we have a relationship with give year over year and become predictable, and are predictable. Churches that give to us are somewhat predictable, and we're doing transformative work. We have universities that are interested in learning from us and building academic programs around the models that we've developed. The government of Kenya is interested in learning from us, and we have opportunities to train them. We've published the first peer-reviewed assessment of reintegrating children who've lived on the streets anywhere in the world outside of the US and Canada, and looking at both the parent and community population through KPJ, as I mentioned, and the child population. We have the first published model anywhere in the world that looks and does that. So we have a lot of traction, and the thing that keeps us running is really funds, of course. And so people can pray for us to get the funding that we need, and to, as always, use the funding that we have as wisely as we can. That would be great.
So if more funding came in, do you see yourselves expanding with more centers or just further reach in these centers?
Yeah, it will continue to grow where we are in Kenya right now, which is in Meru County.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition, and another prayer request would be for God to make the path clear for how to get this model to places outside of Meru County, maybe outside of Kenya.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, there are communities here in the U.S. We've been looking at one in Galveston that could benefit just the same, like a rural community in Meru County, Kenya. And so, yeah, the plan would be to, if we had more funding, to continue growing in Kenya. It is very cost effective there to grow, but then also find the next locus, place to plant the Sodzo program.
So someone's listening, and you've mentioned volunteers. Is there a way other than going that they can volunteer here locally?
Oh, yes. So as you heard, we're volunteer run, except for our first staff member, Kelly, our operations manager.
Right.
And so anyone with talents to share, ones that come to mind for me are people with accounting experience or legal experience, or even just leadership experience would be good. But we found we can lean on the talents, all kinds of talents. This is someone that did go on a trip, but someone who joined one year had a talent for cooking and baking. And so when they joined on the trip, there apparently was a overabundance of tomato that year, right?
There you go.
And so they had all this tomato crop that was going to spoil, and thankfully she was there and taught them how to make a tomato bread, which had a much longer shelf life.
Yeah.
And that's led to kind of a cottage industry now within our groups. We have a network of bakers who are baking goods for schools and hotels, convention centers, that sort of thing, and it kind of grew from that little seed.
Yeah. So I think the lesson there is, if you have a talent and you're willing to share it, God will find a way to make it work.
All right. Well, super. I often close by saying, what should I have asked, but I didn't? Is there something else you would want? Mostly our CityRise partners, but this often goes to people we have no idea. What do you want them to hear?
I would love to share. Aaron mentioned the cost effectiveness. I just did our year-end report, and we're reaching about 13,000 people for about $23 a person a year. So I think we're pretty efficient in that way. Sure. That's paying all, everyone's salaries, the boys' home, everything.
Growth, expansion.
Yes. And our groups, they've been largely women. We've expanded to men. The last year we have about 800 men in the group, but they do table banking where they lend money to each other and pay a small amount of interest.
Right.
And they typically make, I think, Michael, it's about $10 a year from these groups. So even we're putting $23 in, but they're getting at least $10 back. And so
a month. Yeah. The average increase in income per household is $10 or more a month after they've been in the program for 6 months. So it's like putting money sustainably into the economy of communities that are caring better for their kids.
Yeah.
Wow. And that economy, that is far more helpful than our listeners may understand. Here where that's a cup of coffee, I guess.
Yeah,
some
for sure.
places.
I think maybe one thing on that point, Kelly, that I think is worth mentioning. We talked some about the kids. We talked some about the women's groups, because we are also working with men in ways to help them adapt and learn skills to navigate conflict and navigate change. We're part of national discussions too about how to implement our model with men nationally, because that men have been underrepresented. And so that's a part of the excitement and growth that we see too.
All right. Well, super. Glad to have you guys. Appreciate you joining as our listeners. You've got the website there. I'd encourage you to connect, find out more, see how maybe your organization, church, could also join Sodzo International. All right. Take care, guys, and God bless.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks.